For centuries, Japanese gardeners have understood that soil is not just a medium to hold plants upright, it is a living ecosystem that functions as a complex biological network. Two remarkable Japanese techniques have emerged as game changers for gardeners seeking faster growth and healthier plants. These approaches, developed through decades of careful observation and scientific refinement, reveal principles that can transform any garden. Whether you're managing an urban space or working with degraded land, these methods will fundamentally change your approach to soil preparation and plant cultivation. The Miyawaki method, reimagining how fast forests grow. The Miyawaki method emerged from Japanese botanist Dr. Akira Miyawaki's research beginning in the 1950s. What started as an academic study of potential natural vegetation evolved into a revolutionary technique for restoring ecosystems. This approach demonstrates that with proper soil preparation and plant selection, degraded landscapes can be transformed into thriving forests in decades rather than centuries. Native forests typically require 150 to 200 years to mature, yet Miyawaki forests reach comparable maturity and biodiversity in just 20 to 30 years. In terms of density, these forests become approximately 30 times denser than conventional plantations. This dramatic acceleration comes from understanding and replicating the conditions that nature uses to build complex ecosystems. The foundation is intensive soil preparation. Before planting, soil undergoes analysis to determine composition, drainage capacity, pH levels, and microbial conditions. So, the soil is decompacted to depths of about 1 meter, and as we do this, we incorporate organic materials like compost, well-rotted manure, rice husks, and straw. Critically, we also introduce beneficial fungi using compost tea that contains fungal-dominant cultures. Mature forest soils actually maintain ratios that favor fungi over bacteria by as much as 1,000 to 1, and restoring this balance is really crucial for tree health. During the planting phase, we introduce extreme density, 3 to 4 saplings per square meter arranged in patterns that mimic natural randomness. These plants, they represent multiple forest layers, canopy trees, subcanopy trees, shrubs, and herbaceous ground plants. The intensity here forces competition for light, so young trees end up growing vertically at accelerated rates. This kind of competition actually creates a stronger, more resilient system than you'd get with sparse plantings. After planting, we apply a heavy layer of mulch which, acts like a protective barrier, kind of like the deep leaf litter you'd find in natural forests. This mulch doesn't just look nice, it helps conserve moisture, keeps those pesky weeds at bay, and actually feeds the soil ecosystem as earthworms and arthropods slowly pull it down. So, with dense planting, rich soil biology, and enough moisture, we end up with conditions where plant growth really takes off, sometimes way faster than you'd expect. For the first 2 to 3 years, you'll need to keep up with watering and weeding, just to help things along. But after this initial period, the Miyawaki forest, it pretty much takes care of itself. Bokashi fermentation, turning waste into living soil amendment. Bokashi tackles a different challenge. It's all about transforming kitchen and garden waste into these nutrient-dense soil amendments that can really supercharge plant growth. Oh, and by the way, the word bokashi actually means fermented organic matter in Japanese. So, the modern technique was actually formalized by Japanese researcher Teruo Higa back in 1982 using something called effective microorganisms, or EM for short. This innovation, honestly, allows gardeners to capture nutrients that would otherwise just end up lost in landfills. Now, Bokashi works through anaerobic fermentation, which is fundamentally different from what we see in traditional composting. Instead of breaking down organic matter with heat and aerobic decomposition over several months, Bokashi uses these specialized microorganisms, mainly lactic acid bacteria, photosynthetic bacteria, yeasts, and fermenting fungi, to ferment food scraps in an oxygen-free environment. This fermentation process actually preserves nutrients that would typically be released into the atmosphere during regular composting. The process, well, it starts when food waste is layered with Bokashi bran, which is basically a carrier substrate that's infused with effective microorganisms. Each layer gets a dusting of this special bran before you add the next one. The container stays sealed tight to keep those anaerobic conditions, and within about 2 weeks the contents transform into a fermented malt-scented material that's all ready to be incorporated into your soil. When Bokashi is incorporated into soil, the fermentation byproducts, especially organic acids and plant hormones, really stimulate microbial activity and make nutrients more available. Plants grown in Bokashi-amended soils actually show increased chlorophyll levels and greater dry biomass compared to those unamended controls. The fermentation process converts nutrients into forms that are more readily available to plants. At the same time, ammonium levels increase and microbial communities shift toward beneficial decomposers. Unlike traditional composting, which honestly releases significant greenhouse gases and loses carbon to the atmosphere, Bokashi's anaerobic process sequesters carbon into stable forms that stay in the soil. The entire nutrient and energy content flows into the soil ecosystem, rather than being lost as heat or emissions. Kitchen Bokashi ferments in about 2 weeks, compared to, months for traditional composting. That means gardeners can transform waste into usable amendment all year round. The fermented material, well, it stores for months if needed, and then you just incorporate it when planting arrives. Bringing it all together, creating a living soil garden, the Miyawaki method and Bokashi fermentation, they actually represent complementary approaches to the same goal, creating living soil that supports really vigorous plant growth. The Miyawaki method builds ecosystems from the ground up, establishing these complex biological communities that support long-term plant health. Bokashi, on the other hand, provides a way to continuously improve soil with nutrient-rich amendments that are, derived from waste. So, for your garden, you'll want to use Bokashi to regularly amend the soil alongside Miyawaki principles, emphasizing diverse plantings, rich organic matter incorporation, and, fungal-dominant soil biology. Begin with careful soil analysis, invest in building biological diversity, and, be patient as your garden ecosystem establishes itself. Results will emerge through accelerated growth, healthier plants, and honestly, increasingly productive gardens. Taking action. The principles of Japanese soil fermentation are really within reach for every gardener. Start with soil testing to understand what you're working with, then begin Bokashi fermentation to transform kitchen waste into, premium amendment. Incorporate organic materials abundantly, introduce beneficial fungi, and select plants that are suited to your local ecology. Watch your garden respond with growth that, really reveals the power of working with soil biology. If these methods resonated with you, subscribe to Living Soil Garden for more deep dives into soil science and regenerative growing practices. Share this guide with fellow gardeners who understand that, honestly, building soil is the foundation of everything we grow. Together we can create gardens and landscapes that truly thrive.